Hi all, I welcome you all to the next lecture today. Today we are going to start vapor power cycle. Along with that, we will complete today itself refrigeration cycle. So vapor power cycle, as by name itself, it says that any thermodynamic cycle which operates in a cyclic way and produce continuous supply of work while utilizing a unit quantity of vapor. So working fluid here will be a vapor, and how vapor is being created, that is being basically created by heating the water. So these kind of engine, right, which utilize the vapor are known as vapor engines, or we can say steam power engine. So in a steam power plant, right, from your basic mechanical engineering, you may be knowing that these engines are known as external combustion engine. The engine in which combustion of working fluid takes place outside of the engine. Those are known as external combustion engine. So all the steam power plants, right, that we are using, or thermal power plants that we are using for electrical power generation are basically external combustion engine. So how actually they are working with? So we are having a boiler, right, and the boiler is filled with water, and the water is getting heated up with an external source. That external source may be a furnace from where you are supplying the heat, and by utilizing that heat, the water is getting evaporated. When water is getting evaporated, converts into the steam. Final condition may be either dry saturated steam, or it may be a superheated steam. That high temperature and high pressure steam comes in the turbine, and turbine is a rotary device which will rotate by where what will happen in their conversion of thermal energy will take place into the kinetic energy. So the as turbine rotates, turbine shaft rotates, and turbine shaft is coupled with a generator where you will get the electrical energy. Then finally steam need to be condensed. So there one condenser will also be provided, and in thermal power plant, as there are enormous amount of heat will be generating, so we cannot use the condenser. So instead of that, we directly dump that basically inside the river. All right, then finally a fresh stream of water is taken up from the river with the help of a pump and fed into the boiler, and cycle repeats. So like that way, usually all thermal power plants are operating. So all the processes which are happening in the thermal power plants are basically actual processes. So when you are going to find out the performance calculations of an actual processes, you need to replace all the actual processes by an equivalent ideal process, or you can say by an equivalent quasi-static process, because thermodynamic analysis basically deals with systems in equilibrium. Or you can say whatever first law, second law, third law that you are going to apply, that will be applicable only for the processes which are occurring quasi statically. That means all the states passed through by the system will be an equilibrium state. So in order to find out the performance parameters of an external combustion engine, we have to replace all actual processes by an identical ideal processes, or you can say the quasi-statical processes. For the process in a vapor power cycle, it is possible to assume a hypothetical or ideal process which represents the basic intended operation and involves no extraneous effects. So for steam boiler, right, particularly this is basically a schematic diagram of a generic steam power plant. So if you look at this portion, this is basically a boiler where water is getting filled, and the water is getting heated up with the heat which is getting supplied from external source. That external source may be a furnace here, right, which will supply this heat. When heat is getting supplied to the boiler, water will evaporate and this converts into the steam. Now steam may be either dry saturated, because from the properties of pure substances, you know that condition either may reach just as a vapor, that means it will be a dry vapor with no moisture content, or condition may also be a superheated vapor, but ideally we expect at the turbine inlet should be a superheated vapor. We heat this water up to a temperature, so that this water gets converted, part of this water gets converted into the steam, and that steam is superheated. So high pressure and temperature gases goes through this piping system inside the turbine. The turbine is a rotary device, right? This will rotate. When it's going to rotate, you are getting the mechanical work. So either you can directly couple this with a shaft, and here you can attach this is basically a generator. So you can attach with a generator, and you can get the electrical energy, or you can couple with any prime mover to get the rotational work. So the work is getting developed in the turbine when we are sending the high temperature and high pressure gases inside the turbines, right? Then immediately after the turbine, right, what is happening, we are condensing it, and for condensing we need a cooling water, and this cooling water can be fed from a river or maybe a reservoir where you are storing the water, from where you can send the cooling water. And cooling water is coming. What cooling water will do? Cooling water will take away the heat from the steam which is coming from the turbine, and finally steam is getting condensed and becoming the water here, right? The point it is reaching the pump, then what pump will do? Pump will pump back that liquid back into the boiler, and cycle repeats. Like that process will take place in a actual thermal power plants. So as I said that we are going to analyze such a thermal power plant, so we need to replace all these processes by an identical ideal processes, right, which basically will be representing the same intended operation without any errors. So for this steam boiler, this would be a reversible constant pressure heating process of water to form into the steam. Alright, for turbine it can be considered as an ideal process, as will be an isentropic expansion, right? Basically here reversible adiabatic expansion of steam would be taking place in the turbine, and for condenser again it would be a reversible constant pressure heat rejection process where heat is getting rejected and steam is condensing till it becomes saturated liquid. And for pump it will again be ideal process, can be considered reversible adiabatic compression of the liquid back to the initial pressure, right? So we can replace all these processes by an equivalent ideal process. So there will be a two constant pressure process, reversible constant pressure process. One is heating, one is cooling, and two reversible adiabatic process. One is for turbine expansion, one is for pump compression. So pump, what it will do, it will pump back the liquid, and also will increase the pressure. I also increase the pressure. So pump, as is a work consuming device, it will be requiring some work input. So work input to the pump is WP. Alright, and turbine is producing the work that is getting utilized for any mechanical work. The so work is getting supplied. When all the processes are ideal processes in any vapor power cycle, and such a cycle is known as a Rankine cycle, because it is proposed by the Rankine. So that's why it is known as Rankine cycle. So when all the four processes of an actual thermal vapor power cycle are getting replaced by an identical ideal processes, then such a cycle will be known as a Rankine cycle. So how to analyze this? So before analyzing this, as already we have assumed that all processes are reversible. That means they are operating, they are occurring at very slow rate, or we can say they are processes are occurring at quasi-statically. So we can represent them on the thermodynamic coordinates. These are the thermodynamic coordinates: pressure versus volume and temperature versus entropy. So how to draw that? So for that reason, you need to draw the vapor dome. So usually on pressure and volume ordinate, vapor dome will be slightly tilted one. So vapor dome will be something like this, and over temperature entropy it will be symmetrical. This kind of symmetrical vapor dome you will be getting. So look at this is the basic difference between the vapor dome representation of pressure and volume, and temperature versus entropy. Now, so as I said that process starting from the turbine, look at process starting one point at entry of turbine where condition of steam is, it may be either wet steam, it may be either dry saturated steam, or it may be superheated steam. Three conditions may exist right at the end. Maybe a mixture, right, that is called wet steam, maybe a dry saturated steam, it may be a superheated steam, right? All the three we will plot over these thermodynamic coordinates. And finally condition, as superheated steam is expanding, it may go up to dry, right? Or if it is wet steam, it will further be wet right after the expansion. If it is a dry saturated steam, final condition will be the wet steam at point 2. So process 1 to 2 is reversible adiabatic expansion, and process 2 to 3 reversible constant pressure heat rejection. Process 3 to 4 is reversible adiabatic compression of the liquid back to the initial condition, and process 4 to 1 is a reversible constant pressure heating process in the boiler. So two constant pressure reversible constant pressure processes and two reversible adiabatics are present in a Rankine cycle. So I'm going to draw here. So first of all, as I said that this is a constant pressure process and boiler is a constant process and condenser is also a constant pressure process. So we need to draw the two constant pressure lines. So constant pressure lines will be horizontal lines, right? So first you draw that. So one line I have drawn here, all right, another I have drawn here. So this is basically a condenser point, right, and this is basically a boiler point. All right, so as I said that here pressure is P1, I can say, here pressure I can say P2. Right, so look at here, P2 is the pressure after the condenser, right, and P1 is the pressure after the boiler, right, after the boiler. So we have represented that. Now we will see three conditions or three different colors I have taken. So first I am drawing the superheated condition. Superheated condition will be at the right side of the vapor dome. So I am drawing from here. So if it is a superheated steam, it may become dry right at the end of expansion. So first process I can draw here. So this is the first process. So I can say this is the condition of one double dash and it's going up to two double dash. Right. Now next condition you assume it is just dry saturated, right? So condition is here, right? So this I am representing y1 and it is going like that, is it is becoming wet. So this is 2, right? So this is basically dry saturated condition at the turbine inlet and finally it's becoming wet when it is reaching in a condenser. The third condition is a wet. So wet means initial condition maybe somewhere here, right? And final condition is also somewhere here. So this is 1 dash and this is 2 dash. Clear? 1 dash and 2 dash. So I will represent that. So this 1 or 2 process is over. Now 2 to 3 is whatever 2 to 3 is constant pressure condensation. So this is constant pressure condensation process. Now you reach at 3. So represent the third point here. So this is the third point, right? Third point. Now 3 to 4 is reversible adiabatic compression. So look at the adiabatic process, it is something like this. So when you are drawing here, this will go like this. So fourth point is here and it is going like this. So this is 3 to 4. This is the fourth point, right? Is that visible? 3 to 4. So this is basically a reversible adiabatic compression in the pump, right? So look at here, one double dash to two double dash. So one double dash condition is superheated steam which is entering the turbine, then expanded up to the dry saturated steam, that is two double dash. Let's suppose it is a dry saturated steam which is entering in the turbine, it will become the wet at the end of the expansion. If it is a wet at initially, it will be further wet at the expansion state. Then process 2 to 3 or 2 double dash to 3 or 2 dash to 3 is representing as a reversible constant pressure heat rejection process. Then this is a reversible adiabatic compression back to the initial, and 4 to 1 is a boiler means heating process. So this has been drawn over the pressure versus volume. Now same thing you can draw over this point, right? This temperature entropy. So temperature entropy, what you can draw? First you draw the two constant pressure lines, right? So I am drawing here. One I have drawn here. Second I have drawn here. So it will be like this, right? So this is basically P2, right? And this is basically P1. So first condition, as I said, superheated, that is one double dash. So superheated will be somewhere here. So this is one double dash. So superheated will go like this, and from here it is expanded, and so it is isentropic. So vertical line you need to draw. So vertical line you have drawn. So this is two double dash. So one double dash to two double dash is your reversible adiabatic expansion when condition at entry of turbine is superheated. Second is your dry saturated. So it is starting from here vertical line. So this is 1, this is 2. And third condition is basically wet steam. It is starting from here, vertical line. So this is 1 dash, this is 2 dash. Clear? This is 2 dash. Now finally you are reaching at third point. So third point is here, right? So 2 to 3 or 2 dash to 3 or 2 double dash to 3 is a reversible constant pressure heat rejection process in condenser. Now here this is again a reversible adiabatic. So vertical line you need to draw. So this point is fourth point. So 3 to 4 is pumping process, reversible adiabatic pumping process, and finally it is connecting with here, right, at this point. So 4 to 1 or 4 to 1 dash 2 dash, this is a boiler process. So this has been presented over here. So this is TS and this is pressure versus volume. So now we can summarize the things. So total processes are either it will be first I will mention one double dash condition represent the superheated steam, right? Superheated steam, right? And one dash one represent the dry saturated steam, right? And one dash represent the wet steam, right? This is the entry condition, right? To turbine entry to turbine, this condition may exist, right? And the processes are basically, if we summarize the processes we can write in this way. So I can write here, I'm writing here. So process 1 to 2 generally, right, is basically reversible adiabatic expansion, right, where in turbine. So 1 to 2 is reversible adiabatic expansion in turbine, and then 2 to 3 reversible constant pressure heat rejection, right, heat rejection in condenser, right. And now 3 to 4 is nothing but reversible adiabatic compression in pump, right? And finally 4 to 1 is reversible constant pressure heat addition, right, in boiler, right? These are the processes in the ideal Rankine cycle. So you can express in this way. For any given pressure, the steam approaching the turbine may be either dry saturated condition is 1, right? It may be a dry saturated, it may be a wet steam, that is called 1 dash, it may be a superheated steam, that is called 1 double dash. So this is the turbine inlet. So after the heating in the boiler, when it's entering into the turbine, it may be either one of these conditions, all right. But after the condensation, final condition of steam will always be a saturated liquid, keep in mind, that is point 3. And steam after expanding, right, steam after expanding through the turbine, again maybe a dry saturated steam, maybe a wet steam, or two wet steam, right? If it is a superheated steam which is getting expanded, it may reach the dry saturated condition. If it is a dry saturated steam which is getting expanded, a reversible adiabatic process through the turbine, it will reach to the wet steam. If the initial condition is wet steam, it will become too wet at the end. And basically in steam power plant, we don't want too wet steam to be expanded through the turbine, because it will require larger power, right, for expanding it. And another problem is, if it is having more moisture content, it will erode the surface of the turbine blades, or it may create lot of corrosive effects on the turbine blade. Because of that, longevity of blades will get decreased. So we do not need the wet steam to the turbine entry, right, in any case. So condition may be either dry saturated steam, it may be a superheated steam. Ideally should be a superheated steam. It is a superheated steam, then will have a more amount of mechanical work which can be extracted from the hot steam, right, to the turbine. Clear? That's the one thing. So steam which is expanding through the turbine is getting condensed in the condenser at constant pressure reversibly until it becomes the saturated liquid. So final condition will be saturated liquid. Then saturated liquid is compressed back to the initial pressure, right, with the help of a pump, right, at reversibly adiabatically, right. Finally the liquid is getting heated up to convert into the steam reversibly at constant pressure in the boiler, and then final cycle repeats. So like that this operation will happen in the Rankine cycle. So it's a very simple thing, right. So this is steam power plant. If somebody asks you what is the nuclear power plant, then source of heat only, basically source of heat is getting replaced. So you can replace this complete boiler by a nuclear reactor. You can add here reactor nuclear reactor in place of boiler, then it will become the nuclear power plant. So here you will providing the steam at high temperature right inside the turbine. Now here you can take nuclear reaction, and from there whatever heat is getting generated, that can be directed to the turbine to get the mechanical work in the case of nuclear power plant. So it may be either steam power plant, it may be a nuclear power plant. Only source of heat from where heat you are getting inside the turbine is getting replaced, then name of the thermal plant can also be replaced. Now this cycle is known as Rankine cycle. So this is only the cycle in your syllabus. So I am closing the discussion with this Rankine cycle. Let's go for now refrigeration cycle, because that is very important in your discussion. So let's go for the refrigeration cycle. So first question is, what do you mean by refrigeration? So general thing we say that refrigeration is the cooling of a system below the temperature of its surroundings. That's what you studied from the second law of thermodynamics. So refrigeration is a process in which you can cool the system below the temperature of its surrounding. And what was the conventional way of providing the cooling? Conventional way of providing the cooling is ice, right? So the melting of ice or snow was one of the earliest methods of refrigeration and is still employed. Ice melts at 0 degrees C. So when ice is placed in a given space warmer than 0 degrees C, heat flows into the ice and the space is cooled or refrigerated. So what is basically happening here? The latent heat of fusion of ice is supplied from the surroundings, and ice changes its state from solid to liquid, and because of that the space where you are putting that ice is getting cooled. That's a one way, a traditional way of producing the refrigeration effect. Second way is there, that is called solid carbon dioxide. So another medium of refrigeration is basically solid carbon dioxide, or we can also say this as a dry ice. This is also known as dry ice. So at atmospheric pressure, CO2 cannot exist in liquid state, and consequently when solid CO2 is exposed to the atmosphere, it directly sublimates. That is, it directly goes from solid to vapor by absorbing the latent heat of sublimation, right, from the surroundings. If you look at the latent heat of sublimation of dry ice, that is somewhere around 620 kilojoule per kilogram at 1 atmospheric pressure, and temperature would be minus 78.5 degrees C. This much temperature you can generate, especially for food packaging industry, right, where you are storing the food and for a longer period of time, and even fruits, right, when you are preserving the fruits also, we basically using the dry ice for the cooling purpose. So the moment you expose it to the atmosphere, they will create this much amount of cooling, that is called temperature in the range of minus 78.5 degrees C. So dry ice is suitable for low temperature refrigeration. So these are the basically two ways, and how to analyze the refrigeration cycle in our domestic purposes. We are using the refrigerator. If you look at the refrigerator, how actually that is doing the work. If you go to the back side of the refrigerator, you will find that there is a compressor, and compressor is following by some sort of coils are there, right, and through coils, and then it is going at the top where you are having freezer, right, and finally it's getting back to the compressor through some one valve will be there that is open to the atmosphere, that is called basically throttle valve. So total components needed is compressor, followed by the condenser, followed by the throttle valve, and followed by the evaporator. And evaporator is a freezer basically in your domestic refrigerator where you are getting the cooling effect. So cooling is getting produced at the top of the refrigerator, that is called freezer. That is also known as evaporator. So total components are basically four, and the cycle on which they are operating is called reversed Carnot cycle, or you can say reversed heat engine cycle. In second law of thermodynamics that been discussed to you, reversed Carnot cycle is nothing but the cycle which is operating in reverse way. If it is a Carnot cycle, then it has to produce the work, but it's a reverse Carnot cycle. That means it is getting in some work. And why it is taking in work? Because it is exchanging heat from the low temperature zone to the high temperature zone. So as per the Clausius statement, we know that heat cannot flow itself from low temperature to the high temperature. Some work need to be supplied, and that work need to be supplied in order to transfer the heat from low potential to the high potential. So that's the basic thing. So if you look at the reverse Carnot cycle components, so one compressor is needed. So compressor is here, followed by the condenser, and followed by the expansion valve, and then evaporator. So process start from the compressor, right? Compressor will start the flow. So compression process can be assumed like in Carnot cycle as a reversible adiabatic compression starting from 1 to 2, then 2 to 3. Heat rejection in Carnot cycle takes place at constant temperature. So reversible isothermal heat rejection from the condenser. And what is happening after the compressor? It is becoming the vapor, and finally it is becoming the liquid after the condenser. Then liquid is getting expanded through the expander valve, right? And expander valve will do some work, right? Work of expander that is coming out. And then finally this is the evaporator. So low pressure working fluid is entering into the evaporator. So low pressure and low temperature, because of that it will suck the heat from the outside. When it's sucking the heat out from outside, here cooling effect we are basically experiencing. So this is similar like when you are sweating in the summer days, all of a sudden you come to the outside in cool breeze, right? So what will happen when breeze is striking on your skin, you will feel like cooling effect. That is nothing but you are basically taking in some heat from the atmosphere. You are taking in some heat from the atmosphere, because of that you are getting the cooling effect. So cooling effect is getting in the evaporator, because here temperature is low compared to the temperature of surrounding. Because of the some heat input will happen in the evaporator, you will get the cooling effect. So if you draw these complete processes over the temperature versus entropy diagram, so this is a vapor dome, traditional vapor dome. These are the constant temperature lines, right? So process start from 1 to 2. This is isentropic process, so vertical line. So vertical line, just you look at in this way. Now it may be visible to you. So process 1 to 2 is a reversible adiabatic compression, right? So it requires some compression work, WC. Then 2 to 3 is reversible isothermal heat rejection process in condenser, right? Then 2 to 3 to 4 is reversible adiabatic expansion in the expander, so WE is getting produced, right? And then 4 to 1 back, right? This is a reversible isothermal heat addition process, right, in evaporator. So this is the basic cycle, right? It's not a reverse Carnot cycle or reverse heat engine cycle, and over this cycle basically your heat engine works. So how to find out the effectiveness of this, right? So we can say the coefficient of performance of refrigerator, right? As we are assuming here actual processes, so we can say desired effect is Q2 and work input is W, or you can say Q2 divided by Q1 minus Q2. Clear? If I say this is a reversible cycle, right? Over this my refrigeration cycle is working with, then I can say COF refrigerator reversible. If it is a reversible, it will not depend, performance of a reversible refrigerator will not work on will not depend on the quality or quantity of the working fluid or properties of working fluid. It will entirely depend on the initial and final temperature of the cycle. So directly you can say T2 divided by T1 minus T2. And what is T2? Basically T2 is the lowest temperature, so T lower divided by T higher minus T lower. So this is the coefficient of performance. So this will basically give you the effectiveness of the cycle, effectiveness of the cycle. So the working fluid used in the refrigeration cycle is known as refrigerant, right? So whatever working fluid you are using in the refrigeration cycle is known as a refrigerant. Clear? Refrigerant. So all the refrigeration cycle basically works on the reverse Carnot cycle, right? Reverse Carnot cycle. So if it is a reverse Carnot cycle, it requires work input. So work input in the compressor, and this is the coefficient of performance of refrigerator. Let's go for the vapor compressor refrigeration cycle, because that is very important in your syllabi. So look at the vapor compression cycle. So as the name itself is saying that working fluid is here is vapor, and vapor from where you are generating from the refrigerant. Any one of the refrigerant can be used. There are various kind of refrigerants are available: R12, R140, 143A, or R12A. In air conditioning system in your house, you might have seen the refrigerant type written on the condenser. It is clearly written R134A, right? Usually it will be like this. So that is not as a refrigerant that will be circulating through the circuit and providing the cooling effect. So look at the schematic diagram of vapor compression cycle. It is almost similar like what in domestic refrigerator we are using. So this is a compressor, right, followed by the condenser, followed by the throttle valve. So in place of expander, we are using the throttle valve here. So what is the throttling process? Throttling process is a process in which enthalpy remains the constant, but pressure decreases significantly, right? So it will be a sudden expansion. So all of a sudden your flow will get expanded. Because of that, finally when you are reaching at 4, pressure will be lower compared to the earlier one. So pressure will be lower here compared to the surrounding, because of there will be inflow of heat in the evaporator. That's why you will get the cooling effect. So this is evaporator, right? Evaporator over here. So in actual vapor refrigeration cycle, an expansion valve, right, is being used in place of the expansion engine, right? So usually we use the throttle valve here, or you can use the capillary tube in place of the expansion valve here. So what is the process basically? It is a compression process. So reversible adiabatic compression of the refrigerant. And what basically is getting compressed here? Here it is vapor which is getting compressed, right? Which is getting compressed to the high pressure, which is P1. P2 is the lower pressure. Now it comes to the condenser. What condenser will do? Actually, we need cooling, so we don't want any high temperature working fluid to come inside the evaporator. So we need to reduce the temperature. For that purpose we are having condenser where heat is getting rejected. So heat will be getting rejected from here, that is Q1 condenser. And finally when vapor was coming, it entered into the condenser, it condenses here, becomes the liquid here. Now saturated liquid is getting into the throttle valve. It goes under throttling process. So we can say the enthalpy at 3 and enthalpy at 4 both are the same. So there is no change in enthalpy, and temperature almost nearly remains constant, right? But there will be significant drop of pressure. So pressure here comes in a range of lower than the atmospheric pressure. Because of that, what will happen in the evaporator? When that condition exists, there will be heat flow from the surrounding Q2, and this Q2 will produce the cooling effect here. So the moment your heat is coming here, right, that means whatever working fluid was coming here as a saturated liquid is going to convert into the vapor at the end of evaporator. So the moment it will reach here, it will become vapor. Then vapor is getting compressed, then cooling in condenser, expansion, then again further heating. Like that process will keep on going. So this is a generic process, right, in a vapor compression refrigeration cycle. Let's draw this over the PV and TS diagram. How does it look like? So if you draw over the pressure and volume and temperature entropy diagram, as I said that first of all you draw the two constant pressure lines. So first you draw the vapor dome. So vapor dome, as I said, here vapor dome will be something like this. Here it will be symmetrical. All right. So now we'll draw the process. First two constant pressure lines that I have drawn. One is for condenser, one is for evaporator, right? Similarly here you can draw two constant pressure lines. So I have drawn like this. Now condition we start with one is your compressor. So compressor entry may be either dry saturated. So I am saying this dry saturated condition as 1, right? It may be a wet. If I say that wet as 1, only two conditions may be there. It cannot be superheated in any case. All right. So 1 and 2 I can represent here also, 1 and 1 dash. These are the entry condition after the evaporator. Clear? Now, so if it is a dry saturated, vapor which is entering into the compressor, what compressor will do? Compressor will increase the pressure. When pressure rises, temperature also rises. Because of that, dry saturated vapor may become superheated, right? So I can draw the process here like this. So this is 2, right? So 1 to 2 is compression, right? In the compressor, right? It is happening at reversible adiabatic compression, so entropy constant. Now 2 to 3 is condenser, so exactly I will come at the liquid line after the condenser. Now in condenser, after condenser, right, 3 and 4 is your throttling process, and for throttling process I said that enthalpy is constant. So enthalpy is constant, throttling is an irreversible process. We cannot be able to represent that clearly on the property diagram, so we will represent that by a dotted line. So I need to draw a dotted line like this. So this is a 4. So 3 to 4 is my throttling process. So I can say here enthalpy is equal to constant. H is equal to constant, right? So here pressure is P1, right? Here pressure is P2, right? P2. Now I need to draw the second condition, right? 1 dash, that is called weight steam. If it is a weight steam, if I am heating it up, it will hardly can go up to the dry saturated dry saturated vapor of refrigerant. So the second point, second dash is here. So 1 dash to second dash is the process when entry to the compressor is wet, and finally it's becoming the dry saturated vapor, and finally condenser where heat is getting rejected, then expander, then 4 to 1 dash or 4 to 1 is a evaporator process or evaporating process, and then cycle repeats. So this is on pressure versus volume. Now we'll draw here. So here if you draw, so final condition may be vertical line you need to draw. So 1 2 2, or it may be just 1 to 2 dash, right? Or finally you will reach here. Now here enthalpy constant, right? So that also cannot be drawn, right? So we have to draw by dotted line. So 4, right? This is enthalpy constant, and this pressure is basically P1, and this pressure is P2. Clear? P2. So like that you can draw the cycle over here also. Look at this. So entry to the condenser, sorry, compressor may be either dry saturated vapor, it may be a wet vapor. If it is a dry saturated vapor, it will become the superheated vapor at the end of compression. If it is a wet vapor entering into the compressor, it will be dry saturated vapor at the end, and finally it will be undergoing reversible constant pressure cooling process in the condenser. Finally it become liquid, then it expanded through the throttle valve at enthalpy constant, then evaporator where you will get the cooling effect, so I can say here Q2 is coming, here Q1 is going out, right? So this is entropy constant. So here basically work compression is needed, work of compression is needed, and throttle valve will not create any kind of effect, so it doesn't require any work, it will not produce any work. So these are the cycles, right? Look at like that you can draw the cycle over the TS plot and over the PV plot. Now we'll see the processes. So as I said that process 1 to 2, that is called compression. This is known as a reversible adiabatic process. So it may be either 1 to 2, right? 1 to 2, or it may be 1 dash to 2 dash, either starting with the saturated vapor or with the wet steam. When starting with the saturated vapor, we can say that's a dry compression. If it is starting with the wet vapor, we will say that is a wet compression. Dry compression is always preferable, right, compared to the wet compression, because with wet compression there is a danger of liquid refrigerant being trapped in the head of cylinder, and by the rising piston which may damage the valves or the cylinder head, and the droplets of liquid refrigerant may wash away the lubricant oil from the walls of the cylinder, thus accelerating the wear and tear in the machinery, right? So lubrication issues will also be there if it is a wet steam, because lubricating oil will wash away, or if it is going inside the cylinder head, because of that what will happen, corrosion effects will also be there, and because of that process will not be smooth. So we don't need the wet compression, we always desire the dry compression, right? Keep in mind. Next one is cooling process, right, between 2 and 3. So cooling and condensation, a reversible constant pressure process 2 to 3. where first it desuperheated, then condensed, ending with the saturated liquid. Right here, heat Q1 is transferred out. Then expansion process, if you look at the expansion process, it is an adiabatic throttling process 3 to 4, for which enthalpy remains constant. So 3 and 4 are equilibrium point, but as this is adiabatic process, we cannot represent over the thermodynamic coordinates, so 3 and 4 will be connected by the dotted line. So this is throttling process. And finally the evaporation process 4 to 1, a constant pressure reversible process 4 to 1, which completes the cycle. Refrigerant is throttled by the expansion valve to a pressure such corresponding to that pressure, right? Saturation temperature will be lower than the temperature of surrounding. Because of that, there will be heat flow into the evaporator. When heat is getting flowed into the refrigerator, what will happen? This liquid refrigerant will get heated up to become the vapor at the end, and when it is going to be happen, you will get the desired cooling effect, that is called refrigerant effect or refrigerating effect. Refrigerating effect. So desired effect is basically Q2, that is being desired. So this is pressure versus volume, this is temperature versus entropy. There is one more chart, right? If you draw over pressure versus enthalpy, you draw over pressure over enthalpy, this will be the vapor dome. Vapor dome behavior will be something like this. Now you draw the two constant pressure lines. So I'm drawing two constant pressure lines, one is here, another is here. So I'm assuming like that is a dry compression, start with 1, so it goes up to 2, so is isentropic compression, goes up to 2. Now condensation 3, and here vertical line you can draw now, because this is enthalpy. So 3 to 4 is your throttling process, then 4 to 1 your evaporation process. So evaporation Q2 is coming, here Q1 is going out, here work of compression is needed, and throttle valve nothing will happen, H is equal to C, right? That's a very simple process, and we can say this is P1 and this is a P2. So and this is temperature is T2, T2 is superheated, keep in mind. Compressor discharge temperature, compressor inlet temperature, condenser discharge temperature, evaporator inlet temperature, evaporator outlet temperature. So this is a basic generic cycle over the pH chart. So this is known as vapor compression cycle. So all the refrigeration cycle basically work using the vapor compression cycle, right? Vapor compression refrigeration cycle. So this much is basically needed as per your syllabus of engineering thermodynamics. So today, as a summary, we have covered vapor power cycle, right? And also we have vapor power cycle where I have discussed about the steam power plant. Then we have covered the Rankine cycle. So Rankine cycle is the ideal cycle for the vapor power cycle. If you want to analyze that, then you have to replace all the process by the identical reversible process. So we have seen all the processes, how process used to take place, right? So you have to explain this if it is coming in examination with a PV and TS diagram. And refrigeration cycle, you have seen the reverse Carnot cycle operation, right? How actually it works and what is the desired effect and how to find out the effectiveness. And finally we have seen the vapor compression refrigeration cycle, right? And over that PV, TS and PS diagram been discussed to you, right? And all the processes have been discussed, right? So this, with this, your engineering thermodynamics syllabus is over today, right? So introduction to the power cycle and refrigeration cycle is over here. So if you are having any doubt in this content, please feel free to contact me via WhatsApp, or you can write in the comment section. So thanks for your patience for today. See you all in the next class. So in next class, most probably we will revise the first unit, right? So thanks once again. If you like this video, please share the content and subscribe to my channel. See you all. Have a nice day. Good day.